my friends, is a DAC that will change the way you hear digital music. It's not going to be for everyone, but in my opinion, it's the best DAC that you can get under $1,000, and it's more affordable than you think. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, maybe through your new cheap Audio Man Rocktopus mug, and let's talk about this awesome DAC under $1,000. It's going to change the way that you hear music, and it's more affordable than you think. This is Mando, and it was created by a doctor who saw firsthand how body odor was being mistreated and misdiagnosed. How do you misdiagnose BO? I rolled over with my arm above my head and my wife vomited on me, and the doctor would be like, knee surgery. But if he says knee surgery, he's probably wrong, because you don't need invasive cartilage removal. You just need some Mando. Mando is a high performance whole body deodorant that you can apply everywhere, like your pits, your forehead, underneath your knee. Mando's safe for your whole body. Mando is clinically proven to control odor between a shower with soap alone for 12 hours. An average man's grundle level, I guess that's how badly you stink, was 5 out of 10, but with Mando, the average grundle odor level is a 0 out of 10. You want the lower score. It's like golf. You can choose up to 4 different scents, like bourbon, leather, like Mount Fuji, and Pro Sport. And there's even unscented. If you're anything like me, you may enjoy not smelling terrible. And with Mando, I don't smell terrible because it controls odor for up to 72 hours. Also, it doesn't stain your clothes. By using Mando, I can now wear my favorite white t-shirts again. Do you want to try America's #1 full body deodorant? You can find Mando at Walmart, at Target, but if you want to get the best deals, go to shopmando.com and use my code AudioMan. Mando's starter bundle is a great deal for new customers. It comes with a full-size stick deodorant, a cream deodorant, tube or spray deodorant. It also comes with 2 free products like Mando wipes for pits, packages, and feet. Also a mini body wash. You also get free shipping in the US, and for my viewers, $5 off when you click the link in the description below and enter code AudioMan at checkout. That's a deal of over 40% off. If you want to stop smelling like a burrito that you dropped under between your seats in August in the summer, give Mando a try, because Mando smells better than an old burrito baking in the sun in your car for a long time. The Gishelli Labs J3. I've had a bunch of Gishelli Labs DACs in here, and I've always been impressed. And they keep getting better and better and better. But this one is a bit different than the previous J2s because of the way that you interact with it. It has these buttons on the front instead of these little, where's it at? There it is. These little buttons on front, and these little lights, the LEDs that you'd have to discern. You'd have to translate what they meant, like a UFO, like a series of lights on a UFO. You had to figure out what they meant. This one is a little bit more straightforward, but that's not the only thing that differentiates the J2 from the J3. On the front, you have one optical connection. You have one coaxial connection. On the back, you have a full-size USB, which is optional. You're gonna have to add that if you want it, and it's a bit of an upcharge. And then you have a coaxial, and then you have an optical. And for outputs, you have one set of single-ended RCAs and one set of XLRs. Gishelli Labs is a family-run company out of Florida, and everything is made right there by hand. I mean, they have some machines that do some things, but most of it's by hand, and they test every single one before it goes out the door. They have 3 different DACs to choose from. One is the J2, which we already talked about. It's this one. on the bottom. This one is in wood, that's right. And this one is not, but that doesn't mean you can't get the J3 in wood. You certainly can. It's just an upcharge. The J2 has 3 different DAC chips that you can choose from. One is the AKM 4493. Another one is the Sabre ES9026 Pro, which is, it says classic J2. And you can choose from the ES9038 Q2M. On the J2, the USB is a $50 upcharge. Without the USB, the J2 comes in at $249, which is the same price that it has been for, I believe, 5 years or 4 years. So there's been no price increase on the J2 in the last 4 years. You can also get, which I would highly recommend, the J2S, and the S stands for socketed board. And what that means is you can change out the op amps if you want to. And I think it makes a big difference depending upon which op amps you get. The J2S is available in the AKM 4493 and the AKM 4499, which is what is in the J3. Okay, bear with me. I know we're talking a lot of numbers, a lot of letters, and all sorts of stuff. And the J2S is only $10 more than the J2. They also have a bunch of different op amps that you can choose from. It comes stock with the Texas Instruments TI OPA 1656. There's also a total of 3 op amps. Now, if you're not going to use balanced, well then you don't need to change out the balanced op amps. You can save some money. Gishelli Labs also has their flagship DAC, which is the Daisy. And the Daisy is fundamentally 2 J3s under one hood. So you have one $44.99 for each channel. Before we get into the difference between the $44.99 and the $44.93 and basically all the other DAC chips that are available, we're going to talk about the elephant in the room, because I get these comments all of the time when I make a video about a Gishelli Labs product. And that's how it looks. Obviously, this is not going to be a look for everyone, even though I personally think they're beautiful. And I love that they're different. And I love that they lean into the fact that they're different, because it's not just another black box. And there's also not a whole lot of features. It is what it is. There are no features, really. No filter roll-off modes, no oversampling, double sampling, triple sampling, quadruple sampling. None of that nonsense. You turn it on, you put digital inputs inside it, and it spits out yummy, beautiful analog wonderment. There's also no volume control, so it's a fixed voltage output. And if that is not for you, I totally get it. But I do think you're missing out if you don't give one a listen. The 4499 DAC chip. There's also another chip inside. It's the 4191, both AKM chips. You kind of have to use them together to make it work. I had to call Gino last night to kind of get the rundown because I'm dumb. I don't really understand all the technology stuff, the science. So the 4191 is a Delta Sigma chip. The 4499 is not. It's a stepped resistor chip, multi-bit chip. Everyone talks about R2R or ladder DACs, and the analog conversion from a digital source is done through resistors. A lot of people love the sound of them, but they all sound different depending upon the power supplies and stuff like that. I personally have had really good luck with all of the R2R DACs that I've heard. I think they sound awesome. I think they sound great. They have a very analog, organic vibe to them. And in a way, a multi-bit DAC is like a ladder DAC or an R2R DAC, but on a chip instead of individual resistors. So the way Gino describes the J3, the 4499 and 4191 is that this DAC is a hybrid. It's a multi-bit and a Delta Sigma that they got together. opposites attract. You can't always choose who you fall in love with. Sometimes there's a lot of chemistry, a lot of electricity. Get it? Electricity. There's also another difference between the J2S and the J3. It's got a beefier power supply. They've always had an internal power supply. I don't really completely understand it, but they had to beef it up to basically support the power requirements of some of these bigger discrete op amps, like the Sparkos, like the Staccato, like some of the big Bursons. And the board is laid out differently to be able to handle larger op amps. The takeaway is a lot of these op amps are big and take up a lot of real estate, so the J3 was redesigned to be able to accommodate the larger op amps. So you don't have to get little dongles like that or squeeze it in there like some of the jeans I have in my closet that for whatever reason I refuse to throw away, because maybe someday I'll get fit and be able to fit into them again. I think I'm delusional about my jeans. How does this wonderful Gishelli Labs J3 sound? Well, you probably already know the answer. Listen, there's never been a Gishelli Labs product that I've gotten in that I haven't absolutely loved. And I can't say that I'm completely unbiased when it comes to Gishelli Labs. Quite the opposite. I'm very biased. If we meet the people behind the product itself, bias kind of goes out the window. So the analogy that I use is the Advanced Paris A10 Classic. It's a beautiful amplifier. That doesn't affect the sound at all, but as soon as you see that beautiful amplifier, the glowing VU meters, and you experience it while you're listening, at that point you can no longer divorce how that product looks compared to how it sounds. What I mean by that is, as soon as you meet the people, and I've had this experience with Cambridge Audio, I've had this experience with Gishelli Labs, of course, and I've had this experience with Schkitt. As soon as you meet the people behind the brand, and you like them, it can't be divorced. If the product wasn't awesome and didn't sound great, it would be a lot more difficult for me to do that. But since this product does sound great, I have no issue being biased. This is the OG Gishelli Labs DAC that I got the first time I got a Gishelli Labs product. The Sabre DACs for me were always very focused on the top end, very detailed on the top end and the mid-range. Not necessarily as dynamic as some of the AKM DACs, especially the AKM 4493. And I think they've used AKM DACs in the past too. I just can't remember the specific chips. Anyway, I thought the 4493 was a lot more dynamic than some of the Sabre DACs. And I thought there was a little bit more oomph on the bottom, and it sounded a little bit more natural. Nothing wrong with a 9038. If you have something warm, if you have a warm speaker, or if you have a warm amplifier, you may want to consider getting the Sabre chips because it's going to balance out your system a little bit more. With all that said, the 4499 takes everything great about the 4493 and just expands upon it. You're getting better instrument separation, but you're also getting better soundstage, and this is with the stock op amps. You can level this thing way up with some Sparkos. I'm not really familiar with how the Burson sound or the Staccato sound, because the only ones I really have experience with are the Sparkos. But you're taking a soundstage that is already awesome and you're making it bigger. You're making things more definitively placed in space as far as a 3D presentation. But there's also just this kind of intangible realism to the music that I'm getting with the 4499. 4499 compared to the 93 is a bit like if you had a piece of silk and you had that in front of you. It's just dropping that piece of silk and you get everything. And the reason why I love the J3 is because it takes everything from the Daisy. You're probably getting, I don't know, I'm going to do a direct comparison to the Daisy. Let me just say though, that the Daisy is better but it's also over twice the price. And I don't know whether it's the multi-bit aspect of this DAC, whether it's the beefier power supply internally. Sounds very similar to something like a Denafreps Aries. I think it's actually better than the Denafreps Aries though, or at least the last one that I heard, because I think there's less smearing between instruments and there's also better placement of objects. If you're gonna buy this product, personally, I would get it with the stock op amps because you can always upgrade them later. Now, you gotta be really careful when you're installing new op amps. You gotta make sure they're oriented correctly because there is a right way and a wrong way to install op amps. If you kit this thing out, it can get pretty expensive. Now, I just got back from the Tampa audio show and I was talking to Gishelli Labs, obviously. I always talk to them, hang out with them. And they were telling me they're having a rash of blown up DACs because of linear power supplies. If you put a linear power supply on the J3, you're voiding the warranty. So I just want to let you know that. I personally do use a linear power supply, but if you buy one, make sure you get a very good one because low voltage and high voltage above or below 12 volts will fry this thing. So do that at your own risk. The bottom line is the J3, even in stock form, even without upgrading the op amps, is the best sounding DAC under $1,000 because of dynamics, realism in the music, because of placement in space, because of soundstage, speed and accuracy of the music. I listen to a lot of metal and sometimes things can get a little bit jumbled up, especially off of the Metallica record S&M 2, where they are teamed up with the San Francisco Symphony Orchestra. Obviously, a lot of instruments going on. Obviously, a big, complicated recording. On some of those electronics, everything just kind of melds together. But with a J3, I could hear all of it. If you like this video, but $530 is a little bit too much for you, I totally get it. I'm gonna link another video. I'm gonna try to find the 4493 DAC video from Gishelli Labs. I will link that right here. Also, my new t-shirts are in. I will link that in the description. These are all screen printed. I'm handling all of my merch in-house now. So, don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge, listen, and fill your soul with happiness. Maybe through the new Gishelli Labs. It's not really new. Maybe through the Gishelli Labs J3. And with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.